Because it was embarrassing that 2 African champions were fighting in Australia.
Australia, no, I agree.
That will never happen again. There's something big that's also coming to South Africa. President Cyril Ramaphosa, I can tell you, he's the glue that keeps us together. Because some of us are a bit mad in there. I'm one of the mad ones. Yesterday I gave a speech in Parliament. There's some people that want the stem to be removed from the national anthem. I said, you're crazy. White people, when you're still wet behind the ears, are the ones today that get tears in their eyes when they sing Morena Buluka Sichaba Sarona. Black people that fought and was willing to die, not to speak Afrikaans, are the ones today that was the same gusto at which they fought, not to speak Afrikaans, are singing at the blow van ons hemel. We are the greatest country with the greatest people. And whatever you do, never forget that. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much.
I want to make you an example with Dricus. Let me tell you something about Dricus that you might not know. Dricus won, nobody looked at Dricus. Dricus then won the championship. You know, in that excitement, somebody put a mic in his face and asked him, what do you think about the government?
Oh, wow, yeah.
And Dricus said, they pieces of shit. They are not good. We've got load shedding. And he said a lot of not so flattering things about the government of the day. Then, when he won, government said nothing. They didn't congratulate him. They didn't meet him at the airport. He became person non grata. So I became the minister after I've been appointed as a super fan. I was a super fan. But I paid for my own ticket. So when I was appointed, I then said I need to meet with Dricus. I called up my friend, he knows everyone. He set up the meeting with Dricus. Now in government, wherever I go, the president needs to know where I am at any point in time. So you have to say, this is my schedule, I'm going to be here.
Yeah.
So then some of my friends in government found out that I'm meeting Dricus, my friends in government. They all told me, don't go there. Don't do this. Don't meet Dricus. I said, why? No, because he said bad things about the government. I said, he never. They said, no, we'll send you the video. And I got 10 videos from different friends showing me what Dricus said. I said, no, he didn't. He spoke bad about that government. He's never said anything about the GNU. We are now at the GNU. I'm going. So I met Dricus when I got there. They had a bet going that I wouldn't rock up. And I rocked up. And Dricus posted the picture.
Yes.
People don't know this. He posted our picture together. And the UFC, Dana White and them,
Yes.
saw the picture. And they said, we're going somewhere. And we made contact. And we met with them in Australia. And we spoke to them. And we said to them, we want you to bring, I nearly said F1. I'm going to add a time, don't worry. They will make a plan. They then, she's making my problems her problems. So, the 2 things that you must know, 3 things, and then I'm done. The first one is, we then spoke to UFC. And then one journalist here asked me, do you think UFC will come? One journalist asked me, you think UFC will come to South Africa? I said, yes, definitely. They then asked Dana White, is UFC really going to South Africa, hoping to stir? Dana White said, of course, definitely. 10 minutes before the Dricus fight, 2 weeks before the Dricus fight, they said, we'll only get it if Dricus win. 10 minutes before the Dricus fight, they came to us before the fight, they said, even if he doesn't win,
We'll still come.
we are still coming to South Africa. At the moment, the battle is on between Sun City, Northwest, Gauteng, and the Western Cape.
Yes.
All three wants to host Dricus' next fight. Because it was embarrassing that two African champions were fighting in Australia.
Australia. No, I agree.
That will never happen again. So it's going to happen between Gauteng, Northwest, and the Western Cape. So UFC is definitely coming. Secondly, there's something big that's also coming to South Africa. No, before Formula One. That's the third one. That's the third one. The second thing is, my children grew up because of the businesses we used to run. Nightclubs, events. So they grew up amongst a lot of famous guys. My boys are never faced like other kids would. And we went to Wimpy in Pretoria, the three of us. I'm sitting this side, the two of them sit this side. And they go like, and I'm like, I wonder who's this, because that's out of character for them. And they're like, and both of them, they're 12 and 13. They went like, and I look around, who's this big star? I was hoping it might be Beyonce or somebody. But when I looked around to it, I looked around, and all I saw was one fat white man. And this white guy comes to me and he says, Minister, kan ek 5 minute van minister se tyd kry? And my son said, my younger one said, he's speaking to Dad. And I had no freaking idea who this guy is. And I said to him, please give me 2 minutes. I will join you now. I just want to finish the conversation. And my son spoke out of turn. He said, no, Dad, you can go now. And I'm thinking, you're stupid. I want to find out from you who this guy is. When they went, I said, who does? They said, Dad, don't you know him? I said, who's this? They said, it's Danny van Heerden. I said, who's Danny van Heerden? Now let me be honest. I said, who the fuck is Danny van Heerden? They said, so I was frustrated with them. They said, Dad, he's number 3 in the world when it comes to power slap. I said, what is power slap? They said, Dad, don't you know what power slap is? I said, I'm going to ask you for the fucking last time. What is power slap? And they told me what power slap is.
Yeah.
And when I met Danny, I said, congratulations, being the number 3. And Danny said, my fuck, jy is die beste minister. Weet jy die ander ministers, weet nie wie ek is nie. Ek sê, hulle is fucking dom, man. And we are bringing power slap. It's the fastest at the moment being legalized around the world. Nevada, Abu Dhabi, Dubai, Singapore are all legalizing power slap. We are in the process of doing the same, and we're bringing the biggest power slap championship to South Africa next year.
Congrats.
F1, this is breaking news I'm going to give you. I must tell you, your presentation was one of the best I ever watched.
Thank you. Thank you.
Let me give you my hand for that. What has happened with Formula One, and you need to know this as South Africans, it has been a power play between business people and politicians. We have been twice to F1 saying we want to host it. And we never hosted it because egos was at play, political connections was at play, closeness to some players was at play, billionaires was throwing the weight around. And when you put all of that in a room, you never get to host the event. So we've been to the altar twice, and we never got married. I then came in, and I made it public. I said, everybody back off, stand back. Because everybody tell me, we can make a meeting with this one, we can make a meeting with this one, we can make a meeting with this one. I said, I'm the minister. I will find my way. I want to speak to Tarzan, not the apes. Because that has been the problem. They've been speaking to the apes and not to Tarzan. And I went to Abu Dhabi with the help of the Azerbaijan government. The Azerbaijan government, the minister, Mr. Fairid, helped me to meet the Tarzan of F1, Stefano. He is the group CEO. Nothing happens without him.
Yeah.
I met with him. We sat down. I told him, I apologize for wasting your time in the past. I told him only 3 things. Number 1, I apologize for wasting your time in the past. Secondly, a lot of people you are speaking to at the moment lose their numbers because they don't speak on behalf of us. I am here and I will put this together. And thirdly, you lead us as much as we need you. Because you can't be a world championship. You miss one continent. And I'm here representing that continent that you are missing.
Yeah.
So let's help each other quickly so we can bring F1 to South Africa. He said, we sat down, we spoke. So where we are now, F1 is definitely coming.
You heard it first.
The only people that can make F1 not to come, it's my office. Now, Rwanda is never a threat. I said respectfully to the country, they don't have the track that's needed to have a F1. Secondly, you talk about the street race. Rwanda is very hilly. Those cars are very light. And respectfully said, you can't compare. What F1 told me, they're no longer looking for a 1-year or 2-year deal. They want 5 years. I said, I'm sorry, I didn't come here for 5 years. I came for 10.
Wow.
And they smiled. So there's certain things that they told us to go and do. And if F1 doesn't come to South Africa, it is not the fault of Formula One or the Liberty Group.
Yeah.
It is our fault because we know now exactly what is it that we need to do. So if it doesn't arrive, don't blame F1, blame me, because I am overseeing those boxes that they told me to tick. And if you know me, those boxes will be ticked. When we go to Qatar, Grand Prix is our next meeting to go and see if we've ticked those boxes. I can tell you half of those boxes has already been ticked. The next morning, the president, which is the boss of bosses of FIA, requested a meeting with me. I'm like, it's nice to be a minister. I've always been an admirer of the way he does things when he was a racer. We met with him. He supports, he's the boss of F1.
Yes.
He supports our bid as Africa to get it. He's also in discussions with me that we must bring a lot of world motorsport championships to South Africa. So in conclusion, I need to leave you with this in regards to your industry. You are lucky because you have a tourism minister that understands issues. Patricia de Lille and her deputy minister, they know what to do and they are ready to do it. And you have the best minister that you could have had in a very long time in that industry, and deputy minister. The second one is There's going to be so many events coming to South Africa. I'm going to meet with you more in a more professional and formal meeting
Yeah.
where you tell me which ones you want to bring. But I'm going to tell you the ones that we don't have time now to tell you about. We are in for a bumper season. If you've been thinking if you must make your guest house, your hotel bigger or buy a new tourism vehicle, now is the time to do it. Because the country, under the President Cyril Ramaphosa, I can tell you, he's the glue that keeps us together. Because some of us are a bit mad in there. I'm one of the mad ones. And you need that calming. I always say, President Cyril Ramaphosa, consult too much.
Yes.
Now that I'm there, I see you will not do anything until you have a consultative attitude in achieving certain outcomes. He made me agree to stuff that I would never have agreed to. And that shows you our country is going to be one of the best.
That's amazing.
In conclusion, yesterday I gave a speech in Parliament. And I knew there's some people that want the stem to be removed from the national anthem. I said, you're crazy. The people, white people that was, when they were still wet behind the ears, white people when they're still wet behind the ears are the ones today that get tears in their eyes when they sing Morena Buluka Sitshaba sa rona. Black people that fought and was willing to die, not to speak Afrikaans, are the ones today that was the same gusto at which they fought, not to speak Afrikaans, are singing die blou van ons hemel. We are the greatest country with the greatest people. And whatever you do, never forget that. Thank you very much.
Wow.
Thank you so much.
Yes, so Minister McKenzie has really great plans for South Africa, especially from the perspective of sports. And one of the things I just thought to really add to this video is actually what he thinks and how he thinks he's going to raise all the money needed to bring, especially the big plans he has for Formula One sports in South Africa and also the UFC, because it appears that this initiative might not be funded by the government of national unity. They might not be funded by the government or from the government's budget. And so, I think it's really creative to also understand how he thinks and plans to really fund this initiative. And I found a really interesting discussion between Jeremy Maggs, actually, where they talk about how the funding of this whole grand plan, these big things Gayton McKenzie wants to bring to South Africa. So in this interview, Jeremy Maggs actually asks Gayton McKenzie, that these initiatives are going to cost millions, and hundreds of millions of rand, and how do you intend to raise all the money to bring, especially the likes of global Formula One management, the Formula One management team, to have them really put things in place to really have Formula One, being achieved or done from South Africa. And so, Gayton McKenzie is of this perspective that he's a Formula One fan, okay? And that, on a personal level, he's really a motorsport enthusiast, all right? So he loves the sport. So according to him, this is him speaking now. He says Formula One cannot truly be an international competition, and then missing a continent. So in other words, Africa. So in other words, if we argue that Formula One is actually an international competition, Africa cannot be out of that space. In other words, he's pushing for an inclusion of Africa into the whole debate around Formula One. And I think that's really great because that puts South Africa on the spot. That puts South Africa on the map, you see. And so that's the perspective he has for sports. Okay, so if these sports that actually are claimed to be global sports or international competition, why is Africa missing out? You see, he has a larger framework to the whole edifice on sports, and not just necessarily because of the passion to bring Formula One to South Africa, but he has this view that Africa shouldn't be missing out in all of these international competitions, and as a result, he wants to bring Formula One and UFC fights to South Africa. You could see how angry he was when he claimed that, I think Israel Adesanya and I don't remember I think it was Dricus or who did Israel Adesanya fight with anyway. But that the fact that these African champions were fighting far away in Australia was an embarrassment to him, and he really wants to get rid of that. So according to Gayton, McKenzie, he argues, look at Hungary. He says that there are 300,000 people and at the Formula One in Hungary, and 200,000 are from the outside. Okay, so he argues that normally a Formula One supporter is not a one-star supporter, so to speak. So they usually stay in a 3-star hotel, 4, 5-star hotel, even 7-star hotels. And South Africa needs that income at the moment. So you see, he's speaking from a perspective of finances and return on an investment, and this speaks to the tourism sector as well. So in other words, having such a really high bumper ride sport in South Africa not only puts South Africa on the map, but also brings in that much needed investment and that revenue from tourism that would help South Africa actually stand from a perspective of tourism, even though now we see that it's sports now that is driving that revenue, but we see it coming from sports and impacting the tourism industry as well. So Jeremy Marks asks him also about, that he still doesn't know who's going to fund this cost and all that. And he argues that he thinks that, South Africa, first of all, in the past has actually said that they would have Formula One twice, but they lost it. Okay. So in other words, according to him, he said that they've been on the altar twice, but there's been no marriage. So this is him now speaking. He says, we got a very vibrant and involved corporate community in South Africa. The problem comes in where corporates are getting a raw deal because corporates give money and then federations and sports do not account for the money, and they complain that corporates just don't help us. So in other words, from his perspective, he argues that money to fund this UFC deals, the Formula One deals, will be coming from the corporate and the commercial world. So he argues that it's a commercial deal and that you should not, underestimate the fact that people watch Formula One. Okay, so South Africa has a lot of smart entrepreneurs who can put this together, and he argues that also from his own perspective, his corporate knowledge would actually play a role in steaming up the whole push towards having Formula One in South Africa, where the corporates have profits, the tourism sector will have profit, sports industry as well will have profit, but also the government of national unity would also have profit. So he argues that that's the least of his problems, and he really believes that Formula One would actually be not just put only South Africa on the map, but Africa on the map, having to be one of those continents that also host this international competition. So you see, this is the perspective he has for bringing this really high, intense, internationally recognized sport to South Africa, and I think that's a really interesting one. But anyway, what do you guys think about this speech here and the analysis? Share your thoughts. Let's hear from you about Gayton McKenzie's performance in the government of national unity. Share your thoughts in the comments.